What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and break down why tomorrow we may see a small retracement in Tesla before another bullish continuation. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any can be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends today, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So anyways, guys, I also want to apologize about my audio today. I think my voice is not the best this morning. And on top of that, I'm actually recording this in a library because I'm in a completely different location due to unknown circumstances. But anyways, guys, when it comes to Tesla, there are some very interesting things that are going on. This thing's up almost 8% for the day, and this thing pushed up very hard after what Jerome Powell said. So I basically warned everyone yesterday. I told you guys, hey, tomorrow, and I said this yesterday, tomorrow Jerome Powell is going to be speaking, and it's going to cause a huge move in the markets. We're either going to see a huge rally or a huge crash. And what ended up happening today was Powell spoke and the market went parabolic. I want to break down why this happened, why you should be watching for other factors for tomorrow, and what Powell actually said. So to start us off, Jerome Powell came up there and he said some hawkish things to start us off. He actually mentioned the fact that right now there's not enough conclusive evidence to basically comfort the fact that inflation is actually declining. And he actually mentioned the fact that there's no clear progress, at least as of right now. We don't truly see it just yet. However, that does not mean that there's no progress truly being made. We just don't have conclusive evidence to make those claims. He also mentioned the fact that the jobs market is still relatively strong and other very important things, but most of what he said was not that important or not really that, how should I say, as paid attention to by big institutions and retail. The bigger things were the announcements he made about the rate hikes and also the future policies. So the first thing that was huge for the markets is he mentioned the fact that there's likely going to be a slowdown in the pace of tightening as early as December, and the market went parabolic once he said that. Now, what's interesting is the market actually knew this. We already heard tons of Fed speakers say this. This was already hinted a couple of weeks ago. So the market still rallied off of it. And on top of that, Jerome Powell actually said something that made the market go even crazier. He didn't really promise anything, so to speak, but he did actually say a soft landing is possible. So I'm not going to necessarily say that I agree with that or disagree. In fact, I think a soft landing is still quite unlikely, but for him to say that and be this optimistic is a good sign for the markets. Now, obviously, guys, we need way more data to actually make that claim, but these rate hikes are pretty harsh. And Elon Musk himself even mentioned that there's going to be a lot of pain because of this. And we likely already are in a recession. So, with that said, I just want to make it clear that Powell, he didn't promise these things, but him saying the things that he said, it really helped the market and just made everything go crazy. Now, on top of that, we're likely going to see smaller interest rate hikes as early as December. So maybe a 50 basis point rate hike is most likely what we're going to see. But the problem is we're not necessarily pivoting just yet. So please be patient. Okay. Now, what does this all mean when it comes to the data and how the market performed? Well, I want to note something that's a very interesting coincidence. All right. And it really takes us back to some market mechanics. I was mentioning this many weeks ago for the last couple of weeks. Okay. That the put to call ratios are relatively high. This means that the large majority of institutions, retail, are loaded up on puts. They were betting the market would crash. And if the market crashed, the market makers would have to pay billions, tons of money because of these put premiums going through the roof. And they didn't want to do that. So what I was thinking is, okay, maybe the market could pump so that they could destroy people holding puts and then not have to necessarily pay out those premiums. And on top of that, you always have to remember, if one side is too over leveraged, if the majority of investors, which they were doing for like the month of December, even like for January, they were betting the market was going to crash like starting today. And instead, the opposite happened. It really shows how crazy the market is and the effect of the options chain, the derivatives market, and how it affects, investors, price action, and so on and so forth. But it wasn't solely because of this. It was also because of Powell. Who knows if he's connected with the market makers? I'm not going to make any claims about that, but the stock market really does act like it's a part of the matrix. So, anyways, what do I see for tomorrow for Tesla and the markets? Well, you have PCE coming out for tomorrow. If this is higher than expected and not necessarily that good, the market could actually retrace a little bit. I'm actually anticipating it to retrace a bit anyways, but there is still potential for a higher than before bounce to make those higher lows and start pushing up even more. Now, on top of that, I want to talk about Tesla. This thing is a monster. It's a monster, and this thing is getting ready to explode. So, in the market, when a lot of people were buying puts on SPY and maybe for Tesla, when you see the market starting to pump so hard, part of this is because of hedging. So institutions have these puts, these short positions, and when the market makes a big move in a short period of time, you could see like quote unquote margin calls, but it has more to do with them necessarily closing those positions. And then what they do is they hedge for the losses. How do they hedge? They start buying more shares. So institutions, big money, they're looking at SPY, it's going up. They're looking at Tesla, it's going up. So they start closing their puts and they start buying shares. And that's part of why we saw such an explosive move. Shorts start to squeeze, they get squeezed out of their positions, causing a squeeze like event. But, anyways, enough about markets, market mechanics. I want to talk a little bit more about Tesla. What's going on with this stock? All right. Price price ratio is coming up. This is actually, as of today, huge bounce on the price price ratio. This is a sign that Tesla is likely going to start outperforming the markets, and we're going to see some very nice price action very soon. Also, Tesla is still relatively like low compared to where SPY was during these particular time frames. And if you compare to the QQQ, very similar trend. Okay, right over here. So right here, they're actually quite similar. Apple and Tesla really did carry the QQQ, but it's at a very strong supply zone right now. So be very careful. I'm going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Big banks are quite bullish on Tesla, and we can see right here, Tesla has a supply zone, actually broke past it, and we are seeing more buying pressure. Historically, on Thursdays, Tesla's only green like 47% of the time. I don't think this matters that much because of the context, but December is historically like a pretty average month for Tesla. It's only green about 50% of the time. Quite interesting to actually see. Now, I anticipate the short interest is going to start coming down on Tesla because shorts are likely going to be covering these positions, and they already start to cover. So I do anticipate this to show a decline, which is once again another bullish signal. So once again, the volume, everything's aligning in terms of the bulls, but there is one issue, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. Excuse me. Looking at SPY, from a technical standpoint, there's one problem. If you are like extremely bullish, notice this pattern. We have a tendency of respecting this descending broadening wedge. Many people call it a megaphone pattern, whatever you want to call it. If you look at the formation today, where did we stop today? Where did we stop? The first thing I mentioned to everyone is if you saw SPY break 403, oh man, this thing is going to go to 407. I said that because of this gap right here. And I said we'd likely go for the gap fill if we got enough of volume to do that. It's very close to that 407.11 zone. And then the next resistance level is going to be the supply zone up here, not to mention the key resistance. And SPY's at resistance. So I don't know if we're going to just break past this and start flying. It is possible. But what I think is a little bit more likely, because the candle looks really nice, is whether we push up a little more than get rejected or we start coming down, I'm actually eyeing for a small retracement first. And if I'm wrong, so be it. But either way, there's no confirmation of us breaking the trend just yet. If we do, that's going to be a very bullish signal, and SPY can fly to like 410, 411, and very high values. But we have to see how it breaks past resistance first. We can't be too certain. The next major resistance zone, we're actually in it as of right now. And the after hours, we're actually at the 408 level, but the key resistance is between 410 and 411. Break past that, and this thing has way more room to go. But the problem with SPY is this thing is up 3%. And if you're up this hard in such a short period of time, you're likely going to see a retracement. So it is possible for SPY to come down to about 402 first before we continue. But first, I want to see this thing kind of cool off a bit on its RSIs, just take a small breather before it continues. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come down to about this 0.236 retracement level, all the way down here to about 404. And maybe if that doesn't hold, we can go to 402 and then get a nice bounce and then start pushing to the upside. And if that's not the case, I mean, if shorts keep on getting squeezed out of their positions, it is still possible for this thing to fly. I mean, I just want to be as realistic as possible, guys. Rejection of this key resistance level is possible, but then either way, it could still fly. All right. But like I said before, I'm still a little bit more inclined to seeing that for Tesla. This is actually affecting the QQQs. And the QQQ right now is at a very, very key level. Right now, the QQQ is at this supply zone at this 293.5 level, very close to about 294. We are going to have some strong resistance right here. It is very possible for the QQQ to come down a bit. This may actually be accompanied by Tesla and Apple coming down just a little bit to cool off just somewhat before we see another continuation and a fight for this key level. Now, what I think is likely to happen is we either come down first and then we slowly end up breaking above this, or we just break above it starting tomorrow again. I mean, that would be pretty crazy, but like I said before, it would be a lot more healthy to see a retracement first. Apple's in a very similar state, right? This thing, it filled the gap here, so it is likely going to start coming down a little bit. The level I looked for, I actually used a Fibonacci retracement. I was looking at like 144 on Apple. I'm not going to actually do everything for you. I want to make this as quick as possible. The dollar index, real quick, this thing is very close to a key demand zone. It could likely come down a bit to about this 105 level. 104 to 105 level, I can see it coming down there. Once again, a bullish signal for the markets over time. And on the VIX, we filled the gap. I was talking about this being a possibility, but we do see a lot of buyers coming between 20 and 19. So the VIX might have a small bounce tomorrow. Maybe the market pulls back a bit. Then it continues to downtrend and trade sideways as the market continues to either hold these levels or push up. I predict the market's going to hold, SPY is going to hold it around like 400 for the remainder of the week. But I do think there could be some retracements here and there. But overall, I think we're going to hold the high levels for the most part because of the options chain. For Tesla, what am I essentially seeing? Okay, finally, guys, into Tesla. All right, the candle looks very, very strong. And I believe this thing is easily going to hit 200 plus very, very soon, maybe even like 220. This thing looks very strong, guys. Very, very strong. However, however, when we run up, it's not very healthy for us to just run up every single day. And I don't know if we are set to come down first and then bounce the same day and start pushing, or if we just explode from here to 200 pretty fast. I mean, either one is very possible depending on short covering and things like that, depending on FOMO. But the most likely retracement zone I'm going to be watching is about this 190 zone. So I'm thinking Tesla will either continue pushing, hold up these levels, start consolidating, and maybe fly to 200 super fast. It's also going to depend on PCE that's coming out. Okay, so be very careful. Or Tesla might kind of cool off a bit, slow down as the day goes on, starting in the morning, come down to about 190 or so, hold this level. If it holds it, that would be a very, very nice sign. Consolidate, and then we start pushing a little bit, maybe going into Friday. Because of the options chain on SPY, the market might push up a little bit more on Friday to destroy those puts. Remember, we have a relatively high put to call ratio, almost 2.0 for Friday. People are still over leveraged on the put side and they are getting destroyed. So anyways, guys, that's essentially what I have for this video. I'm going to be watching these key levels on Tesla. And just to make this even more clear, I want to make it notable that we could use a Fibonacci retracement just like this. And as you can see, one of the key Fib levels is around this like 191 to 190 range right about here. We could see Tesla kind of trade in this zone right about here if it does retrace a bit. This is about around the 0.236 to the 0.382. Not guaranteeing this is going to happen, guys, but I just like to be as cautious as possible. And this would be the most healthy possibility in my opinion. So tomorrow we either just completely fly and shorts get squeezed out of their positions and this thing goes to like 200 plus. That could happen as soon as tomorrow. Or we come down all the way down to the 0.236 to about this 190 zone, around 190 or so, this zone right here. Get a small bounce off this. We hold these levels, and either by, I would say, power hour tomorrow, or maybe by a Friday, this thing flies past 200. That's also very possible. But either way, guys, whether we retrace or not, I'm still more bullish on Tesla. I do believe this thing is going to go to 200 plus very, very soon, and maybe even like way higher than that, like 220 or so. But I'm not talking about 220 yet. We need to focus more on like the 200s, the low levels first. But like I said, more bullish than bearish. The trend is strong. Let's see what this thing does. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Get ready for PCE. Get ready for tomorrow. I'm expecting still some pretty nice volume. The market will likely have a small retracement before hopefully a nice bounce. But we'll wait and see if that actually happens and what the shorts end up doing and what institutions do as well. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, have a great rest of the day. Tesla to the moon. I apologize for the audio once again. I know it's maybe not the best. And peace out.